Here's a question that sounds simple, but most people get it wrong. When a battery-powered device stops working, how do you know if the problem is the battery or the device itself? Most of us never ask this question. We just assume we'd need special equipment, technical knowledge, or professional help to figure it out. But what if the answer was so straightforward that you could do it in less than a minute, using nothing but what's already in your home? Let me tell you about something that happened with my daughter's toy. It was one of those electronic learning tablets, the kind that teaches letters and numbers with lights and sounds. She loved it. Used it every day. Then one morning, it just stopped turning on. She brought it to me, confused and upset. I pressed the power button. Nothing. I tried again. Still nothing. My first instinct was the same as most people's. It's broken. Time to get a new one. But then I stopped myself. I'd spent years watching perfectly good electronics get thrown away at the recycling facility. I'd seen what actually fails versus what people think fails. So I asked myself a different question. Is this actually broken, or does it just need power? I found a similar toy in the house, one that still worked. I swapped the batteries between them. The broken toy lit up immediately. The working toy went dead. It wasn't the device. It was never the device. It was just the batteries. This is where confusion starts, because we've been conditioned to think that diagnosing electronics requires expertise, that you need to know what you're doing before you touch anything. That testing is complicated, but here's what's actually true. Most battery issues can be identified with one simple action substitution. You don't need a multimeter. You don't need to understand voltage or amperage. You just need to test whether the device works when you give it a different power source. If you swap in fresh batteries and the device works, the problem was the batteries. If it still doesn't work, then and only then is the device itself likely at fault. It sounds almost too simple to be useful. But that simplicity is exactly why it works. Most people think the barrier to fixing things is knowledge. But the real barrier is assumption. We assume diagnosis is complex, so we never try the simple test. Here's what usually happens instead. Someone picks up a dead device, presses the power button a few times, shakes it a little, and then gives up. They never isolate the variable. They never test whether power is reaching the device or whether the device can use power at all. And because they skip that step, they misdiagnose the problem. A laptop that won't turn on gets thrown out, when all it needed was a charge or a battery replacement. A cordless drill sits unused in a garage when the motor, gears, and chuck are all perfectly functional. A backup power bank gets discarded, when the cells inside could be restored with minimal effort. The cost isn't just financial. It's psychological. Every time you throw something away without knowing what was actually wrong, you reinforce a belief. I'm not the kind of person who can fix things. And that belief compounds. It makes you more dependent, more passive, more resigned to replacing instead of repairing. But there's another way to think about this. Testing isn't about being handy. It's not about technical skill. It's about being methodical. When a device stops working, you have two variables, the power source and the device itself. If you test them separately, you'll know which one failed. And once you know that, you're no longer guessing. You're working with information. Let me give you another example. A friend called me once, frustrated because his wireless speaker had stopped charging. He tried different outlets. He tried different cables. Nothing worked. He was ready to buy a new one. I asked him one question. Have you tried charging something else with that cable? He hadn't. He plugged his phone into the same cable. It charged fine. That meant the cable and outlet were both working. The problem had to be either the speaker's charging port or the battery inside. He took the speaker to a repair shop. They tested it and told him the charging port was fine, but the battery had degraded. They quoted him a replacement price that was almost as much as buying new. But here's the part that usually gets missed, because he'd already isolated the problem. He knew exactly what needed fixing. He wasn't paying for diagnosis. He wasn't paying for guesswork. He could make an informed decision about whether the repair was worth it, Or whether there were other options. That's the shift. When you test instead of assume, you stop being a passive consumer. You stop being dependent on others to tell you what's wrong. You start making decisions based on actual information, and the indirect benefit beyond saving money is confidence. Because once you've tested a few devices and realized how often the problem is just the battery, you stop seeing broken as a permanent state. You start seeing it as a diagnosis waiting to happen. You stop throwing things away reflexively. You pause. You test. And more often than not, you find that what seemed unfixable was just misunderstood. It's not about becoming an expert. It's about becoming curious enough to ask the right question. Is this the device or is this the power? That one question, tested properly, can save you from unnecessary replacements, wasted money, and the quiet frustration of feeling like you're always at the mercy of things. Breaking down. The next time something stops working, don't assume. Test it. Swap the power source. See what happens. You might be surprised how often the device was never broken at all.